Imagine waking up one morning, opening your phone, and within 5 seconds being convinced that someone on the internet knows exactly what you should do with your money, your career, and your future, even though deep down you suspect they might not actually know what they're talking about. Yet somehow, you still listen. You double tap. You save. You share. You follow. And whether you realize it or not, in that moment you've joined a growing global movement that nobody fully understands. The rise of the Finfluencer, the modern financial influencer who is winning everywhere, even when their advice is terrible, even when their predictions fail, even when their content is simplified to the point of being misleading. Yet they keep growing, they keep earning, and they keep shaping how millions think about money, success, and the future. And the question is why? Why are Finfluencers winning so powerfully in this generation? And more importantly, why are you and I so drawn to them in the first place? To understand this, you need to step into the psychology of a world overwhelmed. Because today, more than ever, people are stressed, financially anxious, uncertain about the future, and silently scared that they're falling behind. The cost of living is rising, wages aren't keeping up, financial systems feel complicated, and traditional experts often sound confusing or disconnected. In the middle of all this noise, Finfluencers show up with simple answers, clear direction, and a tone that makes you feel like you're finally listening to someone who speaks your language, someone who understands your fear, your confusion, and your desire to feel in control of your life. This is the real reason they're winning. They're not selling financial knowledge. They're selling emotional safety, a sense of clarity, a feeling of control. And in a world drowning in uncertainty, that emotional clarity is far more valuable than any spreadsheet or financial formula. Because humans don't follow the best information. Humans follow the information that calms their nervous system. That makes them feel like they finally have guidance, like they're not alone, like someone is taking them by the hand, even if that person has no real qualifications to lead. This is why even the most ridiculous advice goes viral. Advice like buy this coin, invest in this stock, quit your job now, become a millionaire in 90 days, do this side hustle. Avoid these 5 things wealthy people never do. Because it's not the accuracy of the advice that makes it spread. It's the emotion behind it, the message of hope, the illusion of certainty, the sense of possibility. In a world where most people feel stuck, tired, underpaid, and afraid that life is passing them by, even terrible financial advice becomes comforting if it promises a shortcut out of struggle. But there's something deeper happening too. Something behavioral scientists see clearly. We live in an attention economy, and attention always rewards the loudest voice, not the most qualified one. It rewards confidence, not accuracy. It rewards storytelling, not nuance. And Finfluencers are master storytellers. Every post is a mini-movie, a hero's journey of somebody who went from broke to wealthy, from lost to successful, from hopeless to empowered. And without realizing it, the viewer becomes emotionally invested in the story, even if the numbers behind the story make no real sense. Traditional financial experts explain, but Finfluencers perform. And performance always wins on the internet. The human brain is wired to crave narrative. We don't want charts, we want transformation. We don't want caution, we want courage. We don't want it depends. We want do this now, because decision fatigue is real, life feels overwhelming. And a single confident sentence from a charismatic Finfluencer feels easier to digest than a 2-hour lecture from a certified professional. And while this sounds dangerous, it's also deeply human. Because most people don't actually want financial education. What they want is financial reassurance. And reassurance is something Finfluencers provide brilliantly, especially in the United States and Western world, where financial pressure is now emotional pressure, where debt is normalized, where savings feel impossible, where the future feels unstable, and where society constantly pushes people to feel behind. Imagine scrolling for hours and constantly seeing people who seem younger, richer, freer, happier, and more successful. Eventually, you don't just want someone to explain money to you. You want someone to rescue you from the feeling that you're losing. That's why Finfluencers who oversimplify or exaggerate often grow the fastest. Because simplicity is comforting, exaggeration is entertaining, and both emotions create engagement. And engagement is the currency of the modern internet. In fact, The finfluencers who go viral the most are usually the ones who make people feel something before they make people think anything. And this emotional hijacking is the foundation of their success. But the story doesn't end there, because another force is pushing finfluencers into the spotlight: distrust. People no longer fully trust institutions, banks, governments, financial advisors, or anyone who seems polished, formal, or corporate. People are tired of hidden fees, fine print, manipulative advertising, and expert voices who failed to warn them before major economic downturns. So when a finfluencer appears online wearing a hoodie instead of a suit, speaking casually instead of formally, sharing personal experiences instead of technical language, it feels more authentic, more relatable, and more human. Even if the advice is poorly researched, the relatability becomes more influential than the accuracy, because people trust people who feel like them, not people who sound above them. And in a world where relatability is the new credibility, finfluencers are perfectly positioned to dominate. We follow people we feel emotionally connected to. We follow personalities, not credentials. We follow confidence, not caution. And the algorithm knows this, which is why platforms like TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube aggressively push finfluencer content, because it triggers engagement, and engagement keeps users on their screens. More screen time means more revenue for the platform, so the algorithm amplifies any content that creates emotional reaction, even if the information is questionable, because the algorithm is not designed to protect your financial well-being. It's designed to maximize your attention. This is why a dangerous cycle forms. Finfluencers benefit from emotional storytelling. The audience rewards them with attention. The algorithm boosts their content. Their audience grows. And the positivity of attention reinforces their confidence. So they keep creating even more confident, more dramatic, more simplified content. And soon their influence becomes massive, far larger than any traditional financial educator could ever achieve. But here's the part most people don't see. Finfluencers aren't winning because their advice is terrible. They're winning because the audience is tired, stressed, and emotionally vulnerable. And vulnerability always seeks the quickest path to relief, even if the path is shallow or misleading. As long as people feel overwhelmed by the financial world, finfluencers will continue to dominate it, because they've figured out the one truth most financial experts ignore. People don't want more information. People want more clarity. And clarity is the product finfluencers sell better than anyone else. Now let's talk about another reason they're winning: community. When a finfluencer grows, they don't just build an audience, they build a tribe, a group of people who feel like they're on a shared journey, who believe they're becoming smarter or wealthier by following a particular creator, who see themselves as part of a movement. That community becomes a psychological safety net. So even if the advice is questionable, the sense of belonging is powerful. Humans are tribal creatures. We want to feel part of something bigger than ourselves. And finfluencers build that effortlessly, especially through live streams, Q&A sessions, comments, and personal stories that make viewers feel intimately connected to the creator's life. But the biggest psychological engine behind their success is something even simpler: social proof. When you see millions of views on a video, thousands of comments agreeing with it, people sharing it on TikTok, reposting it on Twitter, reacting to it on Instagram, your brain automatically assumes the information must be valuable, because the human mind is wired to follow the crowd. And when the crowd validates the finfluencer, the viewer stops questioning the advice, even if the advice is fragile or wrong. This is why misinformation spreads faster than truth online, because virality creates the illusion of credibility. And illusion is often more influential than reality. And even when finfluencers get exposed, even when predictions fail, even when they're proven wrong, they still win, because by then they've built a personal brand so strong that the audience forgives them. They shift the narrative. They blame the economy, or the market, or manipulation, or unpredictability, and their followers accept it. Because once you emotionally invest in someone, it's difficult to detach. This is a phenomenon psychologists call cognitive dissonance, where people protect the influencers they admire, even at the cost of ignoring obvious flaws, because admitting the influencer was wrong would mean admitting they themselves were wrong for following them. And that's too painful for the ego. But here's the truth you need to hear: The problem is not that finfluencers exist. The problem is that the modern world has created a financial environment where people feel lost, unsupported, and desperate for direction. Finfluencers simply filled a gap that society failed to address. They became the accessible mentors, the relatable teachers, the friends who explain money in a way that feels human. And while some are irresponsible, many are genuinely trying to help. But the system they operate in rewards virality over accuracy, speed over depth, entertainment over education. And that tension creates the flawed ecosystem we see today. So what should you do as a viewer? The answer is simple but powerful. Don't outsource your financial thinking to the loudest voice online. Don't confuse confidence for competence. Don't follow advice just because it sounds good or feels inspiring. Most importantly, become the kind of person who seeks clarity from within, not from random personalities on the internet. Use finfluencers as inspiration, not instruction. Use them for ideas, not directions. Let them spark curiosity, not control your decisions. Because your financial future is too important to be shaped by someone whose incentives depend on engagement, not accuracy. And finally, remember this: finfluencers are winning because they understand people better than the financial industry does. They understand emotion, fear, insecurity, hope, urgency, and storytelling. Until the world becomes financially literate enough to think independently, finfluencers will continue to dominate. But you have the power to break the cycle, not by rejecting them, but by rising above them, learning how money actually works, making informed decisions, and becoming the kind of person who doesn't need simplified shortcuts to feel secure. Because true security comes from knowledge, discipline, patience, and self-awareness, not viral videos. If you've listened this far, it means something inside you already knows you deserve more than shallow advice. You deserve depth, you deserve clarity, you deserve empowerment. And the more you grow, the more your relationship with money transforms. Not because of what influencers say, but because of who you become and how you think. That is the kind of power no algorithm can manipulate and no finfluencer can replace.